Oh, actually, hold on. Okay. Neil, thanks for joining us today. I wanted to start just and ask you, you know, going through this pandemic and everything that's happened, and knowing about Warby Parker and how much retail has become part of your story, even though you started, as a direct-to-consumer brand. You guys now have, I think, over 115 stores, and I'm sure some of those are just starting to reopen. How tough and difficult has that been for the business, and what's the plan kind of moving forward?
Yeah, this has been an incredibly challenging time for everyone, right? Personally and professionally. Thankfully, we're the only top 10 optical retailer in the country that has a robust e-commerce presence. So while this is incredibly challenging, we're the best brand in eyewear to emerge stronger from this, and is well positioned given the current environment. But yeah, we ended up closing 120 stores in an instant. We made the decision on actually Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th.
Of course.
We were one of the first national retailers to do it. We were the only national optical retailer to close stores at the time. But it was so clear to us that there was a clear and present danger to our team, to our customers, to the country as a whole, and we had no visibility into what exactly was happening. That the safest thing to do was to keep our team members at home, encourage our customers to stay home, and do our part to help slow the spread of this pandemic.
That's amazing foresight, because I think there were so many businesses that really at that time, you look back to early March and March 13th, and no one had any idea. There was so much misinformation or lack of clarity. For you guys to be able to do that, it takes a lot of balls to be able to just be like, listen, we're shutting down, we're taking care of our employees. So you did that, you had to put things on hold. Obviously, like you said, tell us about you benefited because you have such a strong e-commerce presence. Has that actually helped you guys in terms of this because of some of your competitors who are more bricks and mortar?
Yeah, so we've seen e-commerce growth accelerate basically every week since we've closed stores and this pandemic has hit. Definitely our e-commerce channel is carrying a lot of weight right now for the business. And it was important for us because we provide an essential product, right? Glasses and contact lenses, and a product that people need to function in their day-to-day lives. So it's been great to be able to have a medium through which to provide this critical product and service to people. Now, there's been a bunch of investments that we've made over the last few years that have really enabled our e-commerce business. Namely, we created a virtual try-on. So if you download the Warby Parker app, we built a first of its kind, true to scale virtual try-on. So when you use the iPhone True Depth camera, and we take 30,000 measurements on your face, and we're able to position a pair of glasses true to scale as if it would fit based on algorithms we wrote. So it fits properly on your nose bridge, and it helps you make an informed decision when buying glasses. And similarly, we've been pushing into telemedicine. That's been a big priority for us. And we have our prescription check app that enables folks to do a simple vision test from their home. And we're able to provide them a prescription. Effectively, what you do is that you pair your iPhone with a second screen, like a laptop or an iPad. We built technology so we know exactly how far away you are from that screen. We serve you up a vision test. You cover one eye, I can see, I can't see. The other eye, I can see, I can't see. And then we transmit that data to a remote ophthalmologist, an MD, who reviews it, and we send you a prescription.
Yeah, it's amazing. Has that obviously been sped up because of what's happened, and was that the reason? I mean, some of these things you're talking about here make complete sense to build this 360 business, but has that been sped up because of the pandemic?
Absolutely. We've seen downloads explode, usage explode. We think that this crisis is likely accelerating trends by 3 to 5 years. So whether that's online penetration of sales, whether it's in the eyewear category or other categories, whether that's trends in telemedicine, whether that's trends in remote and distributed work and decentralized work. All the trends that have been happening are now 100% accelerated.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's great to hear that the business is doing well. I wanted to ask though, on the retail side, I love going into a Warby Parker store. I love, like, it just, and I'm someone, I don't have my glasses on now. They're at my house. The Warby, my Warby Parkers. I have them. I wear contacts. I will get Warby Parker contacts, or buy them from you. I promise, starting now.
Thank you.
But I want to say, and I've always had bad eyes since I was a kid, and that goes back to the 70s and 80s. And anytime going into to buy eyeglasses, they'd be under the K. You couldn't. For you right now, the retail has become such a part of your ethos. As I said, 115 plus stores. What do you envision? How do you see retail now coming back? Because you're in the middle of it right now.
Yeah. So yeah, we've just started reopening up stores. We have all new safety protocols in place, right? We disinfect frames before and after a customer tries them on. We have mandatory mask wearing of our associates and our customers. We've implemented social distancing, so we're limiting crowds and traffic into the stores, and then have rearranged the flow of the stores and even put vinyl markers on the floor to help direct people, to ensure people are maintaining a safe distance from each other. So that's all been a big evolution in a short period of time. But what really guides us is just thinking about our customers. And we like to say that we're experience focused but medium agnostic. So what I mean by that is that the same principles that led us to launch the brand online are the same principles that took us into bricks and mortar and carry us forward. So you talk about walking into an optical shop and just, it's frustrating. The glasses are in a glass display or behind the counter out of reach. We had that same challenge as glasses consumers. So when we start to open up stores, we said, well, how does a customer want to shop? They want access to the glasses.
Okay.
They want to touch them and want to throw them on their face. They want mirrors to look at themselves, and they don't want small, crappy mirrors that sit on a vanity table. They want a full-length mirror. And they want to look at their glasses at eye level. So we designed the store to be like that. Whereas, I think traditional optical shops are actually designed more from the perspective of the proprietor, meaning the owner of the optical shop is worried about somebody stealing a pair of frames, so they make it inaccessible to the customer. I got to tell you, not that many people are stealing optical frames. The black
Especially
market,
without prescription.
yeah, exactly. That the black market for optical frames is not that robust.
Yeah, no, that's
So,
interesting. When you think about it, as I said, I've always worn eyeglasses, except today. When I think back, in the little mirror on the table and the glasses, like, to look at another pair, you have to point, they have to get the key out, they have to open it up, you put it on, and you guys, you really revolutionized that, and that's why, I love your stores. And for that, and now looking ahead, Are you guys thinking of scaling back at all on retail? Are you thinking maybe now's the time to double down? I mean, there's a lot of retail's always had issues, but I love how you guys have thrived.
Yeah, we're going to double down. We're going to keep opening up stores, but we're going to keep investing in e-commerce as well. And we continue to be a leader in omni-channel. So over 70% of our customers that transact within the four walls of stores have spent time shopping on our website before visiting the store. So, just as we all live our lives both physically and digitally, our customers are shopping physically and digitally. So we'll ensure that we create journeys that make customers happy. And some of those customers want a pure online experience. Some of them want a pure bricks and mortar experience. Some want some combination of both. And I think what we found is by owning the entirety of the customer experience, from the moment somebody learns about the brand to them shopping with us, browsing for frames, getting their prescription, transacting, coming back to us. The more that we control, the more that we can ensure that experience is exceptional. And the more that we learn that these journeys are complex and there's a lot more to them than meets the eye. And our goal as a business is to get better every single day. So we measure every single thing that we do. And the most important metric at Warby Parker is Net Promoter Score, which is a measure of customer satisfaction. There've been some consulting firms and consumer behavior experts that have determined that the best question to ask a customer to determine whether they had a good experience is, would you recommend this product or service to a friend or relative? And that's how you get to your Net Promoter Score, right? Are they a promoter of the brand or the product or service? And we ask that at different intervals of time. And you often get different responses because different things matter. So somebody buys a pair of glasses on our website, within a week of them getting the glasses, shipping time is pretty important to them. And if something was a little bit late, you'll get dinged for that, or, beyond their expectation. But if you ask them 6 months later, they're not thinking about shipping times. They're thinking more about the quality of the frame. And so we need to always make sure that we're exceeding expectations in both. We have a saying internally that happiness equals reality minus expectations. So we
I
need
love
to
that.
be constantly creating a reality that's better than what that customer expectation is. And we know that customer expectations are constantly increasing because we're creating better experiences. So we're,
Right.
making that expectation higher. But so is Uber, so is Amazon, so is
Yeah.
Netflix. So we just need to get better at everything that we do. And we extend that Net Promoter Score to every last detail, particularly of the bricks and mortar experience. So if you visited one of our stores, you might get an email within 24 hours, and that helps us evaluate the totality of the retail experience, and sort of isolates the product per se, because we want to know how it's the experience when walking in the four walls of that store. Because you might not get your glasses for a couple of days because we have to custom make them. And then if you get an adjustment or visit with one of our opticians, we send you a different survey, and then that gives us our optician experience score. If you have an eye exam with us, we have an eye exam experience score that we're constantly monitoring and performance managing to get better and better every single day.
Yeah, what I love about your brand, and just obviously from the outside, it always seemed, or it seems like it's always focused on that customer and the overall experience. Like you said, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's in store, it's totally about customer. And to me, it's such a simple thing in running businesses and being an entrepreneur. Like, that's what you have to do. But when you guys first started this business, that wasn't happening in the world of eyeglasses. Can you take me back? And I love to hear the story of, while you were at Wharton, you guys came up with an idea for this business. Can you give us like how it all came about for our listeners?
Sure. So rewind about 10 years. I was at business school at Wharton at the University of Pennsylvania, and met three super dynamic guys. The great thing about business school and some of these MBA programs is that they really accelerate friendships quickly. And Dave and I were talking, my buddy Dave Gilboa, and he had mentioned, hey, glasses are really expensive. Didn't you do something with glasses before business school? And before business school, I had run a nonprofit called VisionSpring, and we would train low-income women in low-income areas in South Asia, like India and Bangladesh and Sub-Saharan Africa and Latin America. And we would train these women to start their own business selling glasses in their communities because glasses weren't available and frankly, jobs were in short supply. So this helped to solve two of those issues. And what I had to do as a part of my role was source the glasses that these female entrepreneurs would sell. And I visited some of the factories in Asia, and here on the sort of the production line where we were creating glasses for people living on less than $4 a day, 10 feet away, I saw some of the biggest names in fashion.
Right.
And, it was abundantly clear that the cost of glasses in the US is not dependent on the cost to manufacture. It's really being driven by an inefficient industry and one that is slapping logos on frames to increase their perceived value. And I was explaining this to Dave, and Andy was sort of positing the question, how come no one's selling glasses online? Someone's going to make a lot of money selling glasses
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
Because
What you would
seeing,
think.
yeah, Zappos sell shoes online. At the time, Blue Nile was super innovative for selling engagement rings online. These categories that people thought would never be able to sell online that now we take for granted. And similarly, our other buddy, Jeff Rader, who has now gone on to start Harry's, the razor and grooming company, sort of was saying, yeah, I mean, I'm wearing a pair of glasses that I haven't replaced because of the fact that they're so expensive. And in
Yeah.
fact, Dave also had lost a pair of $700 glasses in the seat pocket of an airplane before school had started. And now as a full-time graduate student, he wasn't about to, spend that type of money. So
Yeah,
we
go
had this
through everything
conversation.
without, go through a whole semester without classes,
Right.
just because you're a grad student, it's like, I can't afford to take care of my eyes, but.
Uh, so we have this conversation, and then we end up having to cut it short because we have to run to class. And then later that night, I remember staying up because I couldn't sleep because I was thinking about the conversation. When you have an idea and your mind is just racing.
Oh yeah.
So in the middle of the night, I emailed Jeff, Andy, and Dave, and within 2 minutes, Dave responded, and then Jeff responded, and Andy responded, and sure
They're
enough,
all
we were
up.
all like thinking about this. So what did we do? What any graduate student does. The next day, we went to a bar.
Yeah, exactly. Hash it
uh,
out over some beers and figure this out.
exactly. Started thinking through the business, and we spent about a little less than a year and a half really putting together a business plan and preparing for launch and trying to do it as thoughtfully and deliberately as possible. And we ended up launching in 2010. And the company, thankfully, really took off like a rocket ship.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because it's how you guys have taken off so quickly. But my question is, first, I love that you were heading up a nonprofit that focused on vision, and that's how you learned about this industry, because that's just good karma. And it's like really nice to see when, there's not a lot of these big entrepreneurs who actually started their careers like giving back. It's usually the opposite. So
Right.
that's totally cool. I totally love that. But in terms of the industry, when you looked at this, and I think when I saw Zappos and selling shoes online, that's when I also thought like anyone could sell. Like I never thought that would work. And then when it did, I figured anything can work. But for you in the industry at the time, was the industry, why were the prices so high? Was there competition? Like what, it sounds like there's so many brands and like it would sound almost like collusion, but what was the like premise that the market wasn't working within this industry?
Yeah, there's a couple components that we think lead to high prices for customers. One is just who are the large players. There's one company called Essilux that was actually a recent merger of two businesses, Essilor and Luxottica. Collectively, they have about a $60 billion market cap, so a massive business.
I never heard of them.
They
That's
own
amazing.
Yeah, they own pretty much the frame side of the business. So they own manufacturing facilities that produce frames. They own brands of frames like some you may have heard of, Ray-Ban, Oakley,
Yeah.
Oliver Peoples, Persol, Arnett. Then they own a lot of the large chains of optical shops like Lens Crafters and Pearl Vision,
Wow.
um, and Vision Source. And then they also own the second largest vision insurance company in the US, iMed. Um, and then they also own the lens side of the business. So if you've ever seen a commercial for Transitions lenses or Crizal lenses,
Sure.
right, that's all the same company. So when you have a really large company dominating the industry, right, that can lead to higher prices. Um, and then the other component of it is that this is a health product, and people perceive, right, health as something obviously that's critical that you're willing
Yeah.
to
You're going
spend
to
a
pay
lot of
for.
money on. And the majority of people buy glasses in the same place at the same time that they got their eye exam. And eyeglasses and eye exams, and optometry broadly, it's one of the few medical professions where the prescribing doctor can sell what they prescribe. And the average optometrist in America makes 70% of their income not through eye exams, but through the sale of glasses. And that's
Yeah.
why in a traditional practice, you actually exit through the gift shop, which
Yeah.
is the optical shop.
Yeah, that's amazing because now that I think about it, it is so true. Every time I go to my doctor, walking out, there's the glasses. It's like a little store, and then of course we're always ordering contacts. So it's amazing. So you guys, you can't sleep. The next day you get there, and I can imagine like that must be super exciting. Now, did you know the industry was this difficult at that time? And then how did you plan to start the business?
Sure. So one thing that was incredibly helpful to the four of us were a lot of the relationships that we had before business school. So when I'm often talking to entrepreneurs, I tell them about the power of goodwill,
Mm,
right? When you've worked for someone and you've busted your butt and that person relied on you and you were dependable, when you leave that organization, that person's going to be an advocate for you and they're going to
yeah.
answer your call or your email. And that happened to us. So we were able to call former colleagues and former bosses, and they were incredibly helpful. Having worked at this nonprofit called VisionSpring, on our board of directors were some of the sort of leading executives of the optical industry. So they helped educate us quite a bit. And then, of course, just being business school folks, we did a lot of research, and you know, um, Dave and Jeff had both worked as consultants at Bain and Company. Dave had worked, Andy had worked in banking. So we were also really good at creating, PowerPoint
Yeah.
presentations and decks, which I think really helped crystallize our thinking and our strategy around the business.
So when you started it, right? Okay, you guys come together and we're going to kick this off. How did the business start? And then what was really the when you knew you kind of you had something? Because again, you know, you wore eyeglasses and you were, and I'm sure your, I don't know, your partners probably maybe wore eyeglasses, like, but and you worked for, you know, you did this VisionSpring, but like how do you then just start like make an eyeglass? Like it's, you know, a lot of people are like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, we went step by step. Um, we really focused on what are customers' problems, um, where are these pain points, and how do we solve them? So, right, we started surveying and talking to our friends and family. And the thing that immediately popped out was the price of glasses. So again, because of my background, we knew we could bring
Sure.
down the price. Then the question was, okay, well, we bring down the price. How we know we can source them and manufacture them, but we have to sell them direct to customers, because if we sell them directly, then we're cutting out the middleman and we're cutting out all of this margin. So we could effectively sell the glasses at wholesale prices because there's no retailer after us that's marking up
Right.
the frames and lenses 3 to 5 times. So that made sense strategically. But then the question was, how do you reach those customers directly? Well, let's do it online. Building a website is not prohibitively expensive, like perhaps opening up a store.
Yeah.
Um, and at least initially, obviously over time you
Now
start to
it's
build an engineering team and constantly evolve and stuff. But then the question was, well, will people buy glasses online? And here we thought we were these really smart guys, like, oh yeah, we'll just sell it online. But then we started talking to our classmates, and they were kind of like, hey guys, like, I love you and I love your idea, but I need to try on glasses. I don't know if I would buy them online. And throughout an entrepreneurial journey, right, there are peaks and valleys. There are moments where
oh
you
yeah,
feel like the
it's a roller
smartest person,
coaster.
yeah, and moments where you feel like the dumbest person. And it was in those moments of doubt that we came up with this idea for a home try-on, where we would ship people 5 pairs of glasses. They'd have 5 days to try it on. They'd send it back, and then at that point, if there was a pair that they wanted, they could purchase them. We'd put in the prescription lenses and send it to them. And that home try-on was really the linchpin that made us feel comfortable to move forward in the business, because it solved the customer pain point of trying on that we started to hear from our friends.
Yeah, that's amazing because, you know, like you talked about being an entrepreneur and starting a business, there's so many, yes, this is going to work. No, it's not. Yes, no. And but what it helps you is you get to come up with ideas that could help. And it sounds like that was a great idea, but was there a moment, you know, you're launching a business, you're still in business school, right? Like how like did how did it start? How'd you get busy? How did it really, you know, become or start to become what is Warby Parker today? Like
Yeah,
what were those first few days like? I'm so curious like how it just took off, you know.
well, I think there's this perception, false perception, that all entrepreneurs are in their early 20s and you drop out of college, and you go all in. Whereas actually the majority of people that start businesses in America are in their 30s or
Yeah.
40s. They actually have work. That helps actually spur their idea to start a business, because they've lived and worked long
Yeah.
enough to know what problems they want to solve. And they don't always drop everything to pursue it. So like for us, there was low opportunity cost for working on a business plan while we were studying. And in fact, we all had backup plans if Warby Parker didn't work.
Right.
Like I had an offer to go to McKinsey after graduation.
Right.
Um, so we were hammering along on Warby Parker, but if it didn't work, we were going to be okay. And we did have a lot of self-doubt. Like we thought we were going to have to beg our friends and family to, buy glasses when we turned on the website. One of the things that we did recognize was that glasses are a fashion accessory. And if you're going to sell a fashion accessory, you need to be a fashion brand and have credibility within the fashion community. And we built lots of relationships while we were developing the brand with stylists and fashion editors and writers. And we had a big communications goal, which was to launch the brand with the best men's book, GQ, and the best women's book, Vogue. And we thankfully got meetings with the men's fashion director at GQ, and some senior editors at Vogue. We showed them our first collection. We showed them mock-ups of the website, and they committed to do features on us.
Wow.
And GQ said that we were going to be featured in the March issue. And so we were building the website. We were strolling along, like all things, building a website was taking a little bit longer than we had liked. February 1 rolls around, and the fashion director at GQ calls us and it's like, hey guys, like, what's the deal with the website? You said it was going to be, live a month ago. I'm like, oh, we're just working out some kinks. Don't worry. It will be live well before March.
Right.
And she's like, guys, the March issue comes out in February. And so it's like, so naive. So we scramble. We launched the website February 15th, literally the day that the March issue of GQ is hitting subscribers'
Oh my
doorsteps.
God.
We didn't tell any of our friends or relatives because we didn't know the website was going to work.
Yeah, you're embarrassed.
Embarrassed. Yeah. And people started calling us up saying, hey guys, do you know your website's live? And we're like, oh yeah, would you mind actually clicking through it and telling us if there are any bugs or anything? So
That's
our press went
crazy. This is like the day before.
testing. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then we are in class, and Dave had set his phone to get an alert every time an order came in. And he's like, guys, I think we need to talk. So we go back to my apartment and we're talking about, the fact that all these orders keep coming in, but we don't have enough frames to fulfill them. And we're debating what to do. Should we put up a wait list on the site? Should we just take the orders and apologize later? And Dave was like, guys, since we've been discussing this, another 20 orders just came in.
Right. Amazing.
Last, minute. So we quickly, put up something on the website that was like, we're so sorry, we're sold out. And that was also a good test of what were going to be our values going forward. Were we going to actually be a customer-centric brand or not? And we profusely apologized. We took people's names. We told them we'd reach out once inventory was back in stock. We gave people discount codes, and it really set the tone for the business going forward. But I mean, it was crazy. We stopped going to class. We were, up all night orders, responding to customer emails. We hit our first year sales targets in 3 weeks, sold out of our top 15 styles in 4 weeks. We actually had to temporarily suspend our home try-on program within 48 hours of launch because we ran out of glasses to send people those 5 pairs to try on at home.
That's so crazy when you consider just the power of, this article in GQ and all of a sudden, I mean, how big, you said you had to stop, you didn't have enough product. So how big was your waiting? Like, did you have a waiting list or what, like what, how, what'd you do?
Yeah, so it was literally thousands of people. I think it was over 10,000 people. And what we started to do is we got emails from folks that said, hey, I hear you're in Philadelphia because again, we were at Wharton at the time. Can I know I can't do a home try on program, but maybe could I stop by your office to try on some glasses? And we were like,
Is that like the
we're
dorm room?
working at a, yeah, literally, we're working at our apartment. You're more than welcome to come.
Did you
And
actually have people come?
yeah, we invited 5 customers because
That's awesome.
to sort of test it out and also thought like, you know what, if this is just like a weird experience, at least we only tarnished our reputation with 5 people.
Right.
And they literally came into the apartment building up to my apartment. We sort of moved the dining room table against the wall, put the glasses there, moved a mirror. We used Dave's laptop to help people check out. And a couple of folks were trying on glasses. They bought glasses while we're like sitting on the couch with some of our first employees, like processing orders. And I remember vividly one of those first 5 customers was in scrubs because they were a doctor at the hospital at the University of Pennsylvania. And within a week, we ended up getting a ton of orders from people with the same email address. And it was because this was such an interesting, unique experience, like going into somebody's home that's the startup and peeking behind the curtain and behind the veil of like what happens when you start a business, that it led to word of mouth. And that sort of gave us this belief that, yeah, the more transparent you are, warts and all, right, that leads to people talking about you, which can be a good thing and can lead to, affordable customer acquisition because it's word of mouth. And so we've always believed in what can we do that's interesting, that's thoughtful, that people may want to share at the dinner table.
Yeah, it sounds like, so you had so many things going for you at the time. Obviously, you knew right off the bat there was a market for those glasses, and at that cost, and that was obvious. And then also, it's so cool hearing about people were really interested in like that unique experience of like, hey, I'm buying. Like it sounds like right then and there you merged what Warby Parker became with your retail shops, your online, everything together was what drew people to the brand. But let me ask you, because you get all these orders and you guys have to be like elated. But also I know as an entrepreneur, I'd be like, oh shoot, like how are we going to go get the product? Like, and I imagine you guys didn't have tons of cash flow. Like, how did you figure out the next steps to actually make this dream happen?
It's funny, those early days, like I remember the first time that we got our shipment of frames. They came from the factory. We had designed them, worked on prototypes with the factory, and then placed our first order. The shipment actually came to my apartment, and I
That's
remember
great.
showing up in the lobby of the apartment building, the doorman giving me like the most confused look ever. And there was boxes and boxes like stacked up to the ceiling, filling like the lobby. And then we had to take those luggage carts, and like I must have taken 100 trips in the elevator into my apartment. And at the time, my wife was primarily living in New York, but she would come down for the weekends to Philly because she had a contemporary jewelry line that she had started and was running in the city. But Rachel would, I remember when she came in, she opened the door and was shocked because you literally couldn't walk in the apartment because the boxes of our glasses were stacked up so high. So then Dave and I rented a U-Haul, and we took the boxes, put them in a U-Haul, and we were going to drive them to an optical lab where we cut the lenses and insert them into the frames. And I remember the day, of course, it was like Murphy's Law. There was a snowstorm.
Always.
And as we're backing out of sort of the back entrance of the building where there was a loading dock, the first thing that we do is side swipe the
Oh
side
God.
of the garage and glue our side view mirror. And if you've ever driven a U-Haul or any truck, you don't have a rear view mirror.
No, it's
So like our one mirror is gone. And we, in the middle of the snowstorm, we drove what usually would take like maybe 3 hours, I think took us like 6 hours. But those are those moments
yeah.
where, you look at it fondly, but it's like, God, what are we doing?
I love those. I love those moments because, especially for entrepreneurs, a lot of our listeners who are starting their businesses, and it's not if things go wrong, they're gonna go wrong. And like you said, a lot of times it's Murphy's. It's just they're gonna definitely go wrong. You're gonna have to get through those challenges. But in the end, it will make you stronger. It'll make you understand the business. And for you guys, obviously, that eventually happened. But was that a difficult process? Like just, from getting from that point to finally getting to more of a stable situation where you were comfortable running the business?
um, I don't know if the word comfortable ever
You're right. When I said that, I was like, no, no one's ever comfortable, but
alive. Yeah. Um, you know, I think there are a lot more moments of stability
yeah,
now.
exactly.
Um, but yeah, those early years were just crazy, and it was firefighting after firefighting. And yeah, there were moments where, okay, you stabilize, like maybe you make a big improvement to the website, and that holds you over until you get to the next level of scale. And then you got to re-architect and rebuild everything because performance is
Yeah.
dropping because it just can't handle the traffic, or you have to make changes to your supply chain because you're at the next level of scale, or re um, relook at your org design and the structure that you've put in place, because again, that doesn't necessarily scale, or even how you communicate with the team. So when we were less than 25 people, right, like everybody, we were in an office that was actually a residential loft, but everyone knew what everybody else was doing, so there wasn't a need for a lot of formal communication. Then 25 to like 100 people, you now start to have a layer or two, and you do need more formal communication. And we would have all hands meetings, and they were in the early days a little more free flowing, a lot of Q&A. But then you start getting beyond 100 people, and that is an unwieldy number to have like a full
Yeah.
free flowing all hands meeting. So, and it's also a very expensive meeting because you got a lot of
Yeah.
people there. So, how do you have a stricter agenda, making sure that you're, sharing information that is super valuable. And now we have about 3,000 people.
Wow.
And we still do a weekly all hands, but whereas earlier maybe it was an hour long, now it's 30 minutes long. And then we also have a 3 to 5 minute version that goes to all of our store teams, so they can play and listen to it before their shift starts. Now in the COVID era, when our
Yeah.
corporate teams are working remotely, right, and it's a period of crisis, you need to communicate more. Probably 2 to 3 times the level of communication. So we've taken our sort of once a week, 30-minute all hands and turned it into twice a week, 5 to 8 minute all hands, because we want to be communicating frequently. We want good and bad news to travel fast.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And it sounds like you were prepared just because of the organization you were for this time, because you always made it a precedent to be transparent, to communicate. And like you just said, during this time, that's so important. For you now, and moving ahead, with COVID, and like you said, you're reopening some of the stores now, which has been great. What things are you going to take from this time frame, about the business, that for sure moving forward are going to be part of, you're going to say, hey, you know what, now we need to do this or that. Like, I learned a lot in this time frame.
Yeah, you know, crises tend to crystallize things, and they require leaders to take bold and decisive action. I hope that the leaders at Warby Parker continue to be bold and decisive. And I think historically we have been, but how do we, do it even more so? Um, Having the corporate team work remotely is working. It's not optimal, but there are areas of the business that are actually even more productive today than they were when we were all in the office. So some of our operating norms are definitely going to change, and perhaps we have more flexibility with when and for how long people need to be physically in the office. And almost everybody's right thinking through that. And we committed to our corporate team members that, hey, the earliest we'll be back in the office is after Labor Day, and we'll give you at least a month warning,
Right.
To prepare for that. Every so often, even just like meeting guidelines, right? Like having an agenda for a meeting, doing a Zoom call that's over an hour is really exhausting.
It is.
So how do we have more meetings that are just 30 minutes? And then even how we operate remotely, we're learning. Like, I don't think every meeting should be a Zoom call. And in fact, there's research that shows that humans better detect emotions through tone of voice than through facial expressions. And then there's some additional research that shows that there's a lot of cognitive load in communicating over video conference, because there are split-second delays between the audio and the video, and you might not notice it consciously, but subconsciously it's causing a lot of stress, because there's a disconnection between what you're hearing and the facial expression you're seeing. So it leads to people being sort of more tired. So when is it appropriate to do a video conference? When is it appropriate just to have a regular conference call?
Yeah, that explains why my podcasts have been so bad lately. But not for you. You've been a great guest. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I just want to ask a couple more questions. I love the story. You went from dorm room buddies, building this business, and I think most recently the valuation has been over $1 billion. Like, how does that make you feel? Because I know, like, you started nonprofit, and I love that, but like, how does, like, is that of importance to you, or what does that give you some, feeling of happiness?
Um, Certainly, I've tried to optimize my life for impact, and high valuations can often lead to greater impact, whether that is, personally having more financial resources to impact my family, friends, and other folks, or just having a bigger business that has more resources to touch more customers and touch more communities. One of the things that I'm most proud of is that Warby Parker is now the largest donor to VisionSpring, the nonprofit that I used to work at. So when I think about, like, that time was so important to me developmentally, but it was also super rewarding, right? Working
Yeah.
directly with entrepreneurs and making sure glasses were available in these communities. But I also think, like, I'm actually having bigger impact now on VisionSpring than if I was working there, a 40+ hour work week.
Yeah, and they're not paying you anymore. You're paying them, and they must be ecstatic that you were the right hire at that time. Do you guys do anything now in terms of, I know, is that the main charity you guys are focused on? And it's when I've seen some of these numbers, how people who need glasses can't, like that to me, especially being someone who's always had glasses, like that to me, when it's such a good feeling to be putting on glasses on people who can't even afford that. But is that the big charity you guys are focused on, and finding glasses for people who can't afford them?
It's our largest partner. So for every pair of glasses we sell, we distribute one to someone in need. And VisionSpring is our largest partner in terms of glasses provided to people in need. But we've also recently, well, over the last few years, started what we call Pupils Project, where we go into public schools in America, because the lack of access to glasses is not unique to the developing world. There are, we think, about 200,000 kids in
Yeah,
America, in New York City alone, that need
yeah.
glasses. So what we've been doing is going into schools, bringing optometrists, giving eye exams, and providing
So great.
glasses. Actually, having our team design the glasses so that way the students themselves can pick them, because we know if they don't look good, they're not going to be
Yeah.
worn, and we're not going to have the educational outcomes we want. So we work in New York City public schools and Baltimore City public schools, and now also in Philadelphia and Boston as well.
I love that. That's so great to hear, that you're doing that, especially locally, here. And I want to, moving ahead and coming out of this, and I've always focused on experiential in my career. How do you foresee, um, retail changing, your experience in your stores changing? I know we touched on this a little bit, but like going forward, do you think this is going to play some major impact, or you think it might come back even stronger?
I think in the short term, bricks and mortar are going to see a bump as people, right, the economy reopens and people go back into stores. I think there'll be some permanent changes to experience, like things like contactless payments, right? Like not only is that safer in the COVID era, but it's more convenient and faster.
Right.
So I think you'll see some sustained investment in technology by bricks and mortar retailers, which will be good. And but there's no question that a lot of these acceleration in online penetration is here to stay, right? And the folks that are going to benefit most from that are actually the biggest companies out there, and you see it in their stock prices today.
Yeah. No, you see, certainly they're doing well. I think this is hardest hit a lot of those small mom and pops, but for you guys, I imagine that this might be a good time in terms of looking to further expand bricks and mortar, where fortunately there's guys like you who can now step up and rent out places. So I hope, or I would imagine now you guys might be looking at that as potentially an opportunity.
Definitely.
Yeah, no. And, just final question, for you, Neil, is, you know, for you, most importantly, and going forward with Warby Parker, and I hate to say, where do you see yourself 5, 10 years? But do you see yourself as someone who will run this business, for the long term? Do you see yourself as an entrepreneur who might go start another business? What's for you, does the future hold? And did any of this time, this COVID time, have any impact on your thinking?
Um, yeah, crisis tend to lead to a lot of reflection. I love what I do. I believe Warby Parker is a force for good in the world, and that I can still have major impact. We have almost 3,000 team members, and my job is to make sure that they are safe from a health standpoint, safe from a financial security standpoint. So that duty and responsibility, I you know cherish, and I see myself doing this for a long time. You know, what's great is that I also love engaging with other entrepreneurs, and being in this position as the co-founder and co-CEO of Warby Parker enables me to engage with a lot of other entrepreneurs as well, and pay it forward. So I'm on the boards of Sweet Green and Allbirds. I've started an early stage venture fund with some of my co-founders, and Jeff and Dave, and also our buddy Joey, who started Allbirds. That also keeps me busy and excited.
Yeah, no, that sounds like it does. And I just want to thank you for coming on, especially during these times. I could totally see why I've always, and I'm so glad to see, like, always envisioned Warby Parker, just this great brand, friendly, giving back, and I can see where it all stems from. So I really appreciate your
Thank you.
time.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thanks for having me.
yeah, thank you. Be well.
Take care.